Well, I was working on replacing more of the paper caps, in particular AGC, a little on the video amp, a little on the sound IF, and I seem to have lost reception. One step forward, two steps back. When this happened before, I wiggled the 6C4 tube. It's a local oscillator and a tuner, and that got it back. Now nothing I'm doing is helping. So what do you do at this point? Well, aside from wiggling the tubes and double checking your work, I can either inject a signal into the IF and into the video amp tube directly using something like a B&K 1077B, or hook up a scope and check out the signal and see if I can have a signal on the IF or on the video amp. I'm going to bang on it a little bit before I do that. Otherwise, I think I'll get out that Tektronix scope that I've been reconditioning and poke around and see what kind of signals we have. Oh well, we'll just go with that. 50 volts per division, 50 millivolts rather. Or no, wait. Am I reading that right? That's 50 millivolts per division. That's a really small signal. So after the output of the detector, we've got a video amp. But there's only one stage of video amplification before the picture tube. So, and I think we went like 10 volts maybe or something like that, peak to peak. I don't think one tube stage can have that much gain, so I think the output of my detector is already too weak. Let's take a look anyways. Output of the video amp, pin 5 on 686. This. Ooh, it actually got even smaller. So the shape is right, but the gain is just crap. I mean, 10 millivolts per division, that's nothing. It's a super small signal. It's weird too, as I'm flipping through the tuner, and it's better when I'm on channel. When I get off, though, it's still coming through. Or something's coming through, which is also odd. Now, there is a remote possibility my converter box has somehow acted up, so I'm going to use a test pattern generator, and I can vary the output RF level on that, just to make sure, you know. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, I think. So I have a Sencor VG91 test pattern generator, set to channel 3, even though the tune is on channel 4, and I've got my scope on the output of the video detector. And that is a very clear, solid, strong 1 volt per division. It's like 2-3 volts. I got the output of this generator cranked to the max, so it's put out a very strong signal. But there is a classic video signal. Horizontal sync pulse, and there's each line, scan line is that. And if I change the pattern on the touch pattern generator, it's kind of nifty. Like there is a staircase pattern. A little tough getting the scope to trigger on some of these signals. But, anyways, I mean, clearly it's receiving the signal, it's responding, changing the different test patterns and so on. Alright, cool. Well, let's check the grid of the video amp. Should have a similarly looking signal there. That's pin 1 of 686. Video amp tube. Well, that doesn't look right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Aha! hee. Let's see what the problem is. This is what happens when you get interrupted while you're working on something. I clipped out this cap but didn't get around to installing a replacement. What is it? It is the coupling cap. That guy's C44, the coupling cap from the detector to the grid of the video amp. Kind of wild though that some signal is actually able to sort of jump the gap and leak through anyways. But there we go. Not great, but there is an image getting through. Dust pattern generator. And some sound too. It's on the wrong channel. This tuner is really jacked up. Hey, what do you know? It turns out the radio chassis stand I recently acquired is large enough when I use the extender to put this TV chassis on. So that's nifty. Now that all my parts are in that I ordered, I'm going to start restuffing. And now that it's basically working. Remaining trouble. So the reception's weird and the sound in the video are way off. I've not been able to find any info on the tuner, so that's potentially going to be a little problematic if I have to adjust that. I looked at all the adjustment slugs for the IF, and it looks like they haven't been moved in a very long time. So, you know, if somebody had monkeyed around with them, there might be some cleaner spots on the metal where somebody had backed off a slug, for example. See, the problem is the tuner in the service info doesn't match the tuner that I have. So if I need to make adjustments to that, I'm going to be working blind. So, well, I'll just work on the stuff that I know for now until that's all done, and I'll circle back to the tuner. Here's a little update. I finished replacing all the paper caps. No significant performance increase or decrease. Basically worked about the same. I noticed the horizontal wasn't so hot. I wasn't able to get full width without getting some fold over. So on a whim, I swapped out the 12 SN7s from the vertical and the horizontal. Now suddenly I had plenty of horizontal width, but the vertical was lacking. So, in spite of my Sencor TC162 telling me all the tubes were very good, we're going to test them again with a different tester, one that does more comprehensive testing. So the TC162, it'll weed out any tubes that have an open filament or no emissions, but doesn't do such a great job on checking the quality of the tube, let's say. Alright, I figured while I'm at it, since the video bandwidth and sharpness isn't so great, I pulled out all the 6AU6s as well. I did a little research too, so they're all branded Mirror Tone. As I googled that, Mirror Tone was one of the brands that Meck made. They had a line of radios called Mirror Tone, so that explains that. I also pulled the tuner out. Not only is it, the tuning seemed goofy, well, it is goofy, it doesn't seem goofy, it is goofy. It's also very hard to change the channels. So it's all sealed up. I figured I'll just pull it out. There's only a few connections to it. Now to get the shield off, you really need to pull it out because you have to twist over some metal tabs. And then I'll pull this cover off and we'll see what's going on inside. It's made by Sark's Tarzian, who made lots of tuners. That was their main gig. They made tuners for Admiral and a bunch of other companies. I initially thought maybe Meck did their own thing. Well, they sort of did, because there are other companies use the same chassis, but they did a different tuner. So Meck didn't make the tuner, but they second sourced a different tuner. I have not seen this exact type of tuner before. I don't know if it's known for having issues or not. Peek in there, I can see it's got a rotary switch and a whole bunch of inductors, and out the front there are holes, and you can stick a screwdriver in there and you can tweak them. I don't like the fact that on the number 4 there's a piece of wire sticking out. That makes me think that something went awry, and I got a feeling I know what. I have seen somewhat similar slugged adjustable tuners like this, and there's a bit of wire in there to prevent the slug from falling out or going too far in. I think something may have gone amiss with channel number 4. Maybe that's what's throwing everything off by one channel, I don't know. I also don't like the fact that it appears to have been cut and a wire spliced and electrical tape put around it. I suspect that wasn't done at the factory. I mean, heck, maybe this is a replacement tuner. I don't really know. Ooh, now there's a thought. Oh, I wish I had thought of that before I pulled it out. Of course, I didn't know it was the Sark's Tarsian or any of this other stuff. So if you recall, the tube chart calls for a 6AG5, but I found a 6AU6 in there and immediately swapped it out. Maybe this isn't the original tuner. Maybe it's a production change. Maybe there should be a 6AU6 in there. Maybe that would have improved the performance. Now that is, I think that's the mixer tube. So I don't think that would throw the tuning off by a channel or cause the audio to be out of alignment, but it could certainly affect the gain of the set. I'm going through and checking all the 12 SN7s again, and I find it hard to believe, but this one has 0 emissions. It's dual triode. I've got 5 of them in this set. The first 2 checked fine. This one, just nothing. I've tried wiggling it and tapping it and taking it in and out, and I mean, it's just gone. Which kind of makes me wonder, how is this? Oh, one, why didn't the TC162 pick up on it? Or did it die since I tested it earlier? I'm also remembering the vertical centering. I was able to move the image up but not down. So I wonder if this tube was in the vertical deflection circuit and only one half of it was working. So it was deflecting it one way and not the other. Because there's 2 triodes and they use the symmetrical operation. Each one drives one of the deflection plates on the CRT with an equal but opposite sawtooth wave. But wow, that is one dead tube. All I can think is like the cathode is open to actually have absolutely 0 emissions like that. Well, replacing that should make some difference. Now that the new caps I ordered have arrived, I want to tackle these electrolytic can caps. The one in the rear I've already bypassed down below, but these 2 up front, all the times I've powered this setup, have still been in the circuit. They are used in the voltage doubler and tripler. Now to restuff these, first thing I want to do is get these cardboard covers off. That will expose an aluminum can below. We're going to cut that open, remove all the insides, drill some little holes, thread the leads for our new caps down, secure them on the existing lugs, put the cardboard back on. Nobody will know anything has happened. I'm going to try using this little handheld pin vise to drill the holes. The base is made out of phenolic material, just like these tube sockets. Should be really easy to drill through. I want to use this pin vise because it came with a set of really small drill bits. I think between 0.6 and 3 millimeters, something like that. I'm thinking probably 2 millimeters will be about right. First thing though, we got to get these covers off. They are typically held on by tar. So there's an aluminum can, and they put a blob of hot tar and then slide the cardboard tube over it. We need to heat these up, which can take a while because cardboard is an insulator and we're going to be heating it from the top. It takes a while for that heat to transfer down through, and then the aluminum, being a good conductor of heat, kind of draws it away. In the past I've used a heat gun, which works fairly well, but if you get it too hot you start charring the cardboard. If you don't get it hot enough, it just takes a long time. Well, my heat gun died, so that's not even an option. We're going to use a hair dryer. I used it recently in a radio project, and it worked. It just took a while. So we'll see how it goes. I'll start with this guy right here. And right below these two, there's a filter choke. We'll have to temporarily unmount that to get good access down in here. Also try doing a little chassis cleaning using Gojo. The chassis looks pretty clean, but there is kind of like a layer of dust that's kind of baked into the surface, or maybe it's corrosion. I don't know. Gojo made very quick work of it, but it's curious. After putting on the Gojo, you wipe it away, it's really shiny metal. However, it's really soft. Even just using a paper towel, it scratches it. And it also keeps giving off residue. Almost like this is like pencil lead or something. Cadmium, if something is cadmium plated, I thought it was a pretty tough substance. I mean, I know it's not like chromium or chrome plating or nickel, but it's acting more like lead or graphite, where it just keeps wearing off and it scratches super easily. Anyways, what I did is after the Gojo, once I realized that the paper towel was scratching the metal, I'm switching to a soft cloth and then putting on T9 liquid wax right away to protect it from corroding. Absolutely unnecessary. I just thought I'd give it a try. It wouldn't be too difficult to just go over this whole chassis with it. Then reality set in. There's a ton of tar on these aluminum tubes. This one I just took off, it went all the way from the top nearly to the bottom. Trying to heat that up from the outside through cardboard just isn't going to happen. This is pretty high temperature stuff. At room temperature, it's rock hard. You need to get it quite warm to the point where it's almost liquidy that you can pull the cardboard off. So after trying for 15-20 minutes to heat this up but not scorch the cardboard, I gave up, and I cut the center disc out of the top of each one of these. That helped. I was able to kind of melt and chip away at this a bit, but not to get it heated all the way down. So I put a screwdriver on the side opposite the printing and had to split open the cardboard to get them off. Possibly I can glue that so it's not that visible. I can mount it so that's, away from the outside. I can cut a new disc for the top. Not what I wanted to end up doing, but that's how it went. And then I cut this off using a mini hacksaw. Now, it's been suggested to me many times, try using a pipe cutter. The goal of this is to do it without removing the cans. So if somebody knows of a pipe cutter that can handle an outside diameter of a little over 1 1/4 inch, that you can do a clearance of less than 1/2 inch before it bumps into something else, and that will cut about 3/4 inch up from the bottom, please let me know. I'd be happy to give it a try. If I'm at the point where I have to unmount this, I've already had to do so much work, I don't even care at that point about how much work it is to cut the tube open. Because disconnecting the connections down below, and then these have twist tabs in the bottom, I have to straighten those out and then pull this out. That's a ton of work. That's what I'm trying to avoid doing. In addition to retaining this so I can hide the new caps inside. This is precisely why I did not do this on the Motorola 9T1. I'm trying to preserve the original look and the wiring with as little stress to the overall system as possible. Blasting this with a lot of hot air to melt the tar out and then using a tool to cut this open and having a little bit of metal filings going all over, that's not what I want to be doing. In hindsight, I probably should have just not even touched these and altered the wiring a little bit down below and mounted new caps. But what's done is done, so we'll keep going. Back to cutting the can open, I used a mini hacksaw and I just back to getting the cans open. I did end up using a mini hacksaw. It's not that hard to do. It's very soft aluminum. The only downside is you get little bits of aluminum all over, but it's very doable. Just be careful to clean all that up. Dremel cutoff wheel, absolutely. Again, you're going to have bits of metal flying everywhere, and if you lose control, it can go skidding and skittering, and you could bump into something you might not want to. Or what I sometimes do is take a very sharp, fresh box cutter blade and work my way around. Especially if you use the hacksaw to puncture at a point, and then you can just kind of wiggle this. And like there, I'm inside now. It doesn't take that much effort. And then you can kind of use pressure and slowly work your way around like a can opener. Or even just go to the side and rock the blade back and forth while pushing down. It will eventually cut all the way through. Just, you know, it takes a bit of hand strength and coordination. You don't want to slip and cut yourself. But there are alternatives. There are ways to get these open. It's not that big of an ordeal. That electrolyte is water soluble and cleaned up very easily. Just grabbed a little warm water and a toothbrush, scrubbed it, blotted it up with a paper towel. I think this guy is only one suction. I'm only seeing one tab coming through. And boy, just this little bit of effort and I am soaked in sweat. So after this last hole here, I am going to take a break. Here's the joys of trying to film while you're doing something. Get comments, people asking me they want to see what I'm doing. Well, the problem is to see what I'm doing, I need to put the camera in front of my face, and then I can't see what I'm doing, and then I end up just bumping into it or screwing up. So please bear with me. Yeah, I got to imagine if there were, if these were some nice titanium bits with maybe cut a little better or differently, this would go faster. But yeah, generally speaking, a neat little tool. And it was like, I don't know, 15 bucks or something for the tool plus the case plus all the bits. I think I might be getting hung up. Oh, there it is. See, the one thing you get hung up on is that on the other side there's going to be a lug and some solder and some component leads, and I could theoretically be bumping into it while I'm doing that. But no, I'm good. This one I want to double check down below. Well, I'll just do it now. I think I'm safe to tip this up. Let's see, that cap. No, it does have two sections. So there's that one. And then there's also one here. The tab must have just broken off down inside. But there's also a cap lug going up to this one. So I'll have to drill a hole there too. And then I just need to go through and pull out all my caps and then figure out, make sure I got the right cap value going to the right lug, run all the leads through and solder up, and it will be done. So honestly, I was really getting frustrated earlier, but if it hadn't been for the cardboard covers, this actually would have been a pretty quick process, like maybe 20 minutes start to finish. Instead, I spent probably half an hour just getting stupid cardboard covers off and ended up trashing them in the end anyways. This one's being a little stubborn. I don't know if these are like special hardened steel or titanium bits. Might just be getting real dull already. Yeah, it still feels pretty sharp just on my tip of my thumb. Maybe I'm just that weak right now. Oops. There we go. Come on. So I'm not really getting any shavings coming up. Oh. Spoke too soon. I just got my mouth shut and kept going. Alright, all the holes are drilled. I'm gonna just hunt around and dig up all the caps I'm going to be using. And there we go. All the new electrolytics have been installed. It's kind of funny how with these new ones that just fits perfectly with two of them side by side. And in this case, three. And, you know, we'll deal with these cardboard covers later, but it would look something like that when they're all reinstalled. My current theory about this set is that it was serviced shortly after it was sold. Factory recall, or serviced under warranty, or maybe they offered an upgrade, I don't know. But what I am pretty certain is there are a few things that were changed. One, we know the high voltage caps were clipped out and replaced, but replaced a very long time ago. The tuner appears to have been replaced because the IF lead coming out of it has been clipped off, and there's a bunch of tape around the antenna leads coming in too, and it doesn't match the service info. Or it matches it pretty closely, but the tube lineup that was in it does not match the service info, yet the tube that was in here was a music tone, which is a Meck branded tube. Mirror Tone was their radio division. So there was a Meck installed tube in the tuner that doesn't match the tube chart. Another factor, I just noticed these tube sockets of putting tubes back in. Look how pristine that is. That has not seen a lot of tubes going in and out of it. Something else. The speaker and all the service info is shown as being on this side. It was installed on this side with this set, and as we can see from the marks on the chassis, a very, very long time ago, and I don't see any signs that anything was ever installed on this side, yet the speaker wires clearly came out on this side and were too short to reach the other side, so they were spliced in. So it had to have been done a very, very long time ago. Now, as you can see, I removed the speaker. I did that to work on the tuner, but my intent was to put it on this side, and I clipped those wires off. I still intend to do that. It's kind of weird, though, when you think about preserving or restoring a set to its original configuration. In this case, I'm not entirely sure what the original configuration was, because there were modifications done ages ago with like factory parts. Alright, just about done. I need to hook the speaker back up and dig up a 6AU6 for the one that tested bad. I want to mention one other thing, though, is something you'll sometimes see on budget sets is they used wood here and there. So they have wood standoffs for the antenna plate, and there are also 3 wooden offsets holding it below the tuner. You can maybe see one of them poking out down there. I guess plastic was, or Bakelite was too expensive an option. I don't know. Or maybe for small production runs it just wasn't worth the money. Now we're going to try it with the 6AU6 in the tuner, as it was when I got the set, and I relocated the speaker to this side because, screw it, that's where I want it to be. I'll tell you why. It's because the wire going to the speaker, output transformer, goes right up into the body of the transformer. And that wire used to be one continuous piece that goes all the way down and connects into the output circuit. Clearly, these wires were once one, and it was cut. It's moved to the other side, and a wire added in. You know, and it got me thinking, maybe this could have been mounted here. Maybe they just didn't use self-tapping screws. It could have been a nut and a bolt, and it wouldn't have necessarily left any indelible marks. But yeah, these holes don't line up, so I just use one of them for now. But who's to say this is the original speaker? Who's to say that's the original mounting bracket? I mean, we don't know anything. The only thing I do know for sure is that at one point these wires were a continuous piece, and it was cut. And I kind of like it better on this side because it matches all the documentation, all the photos, all the service info that I've ever seen. So let's see what happens now. There are a few caps at the bottom of that high voltage box that I have not replaced. Or maybe it's only one paper cap. And some resistors. And I haven't checked the rectifier tube. And I think there's an adjustment you can make to kind of fine tune it for maximum efficiency. In other words, I think we can boost the high voltage, and that could get us a somewhat brighter picture. I prefer not to unmount the CRT if I don't have to, because it's a little tricky. Well, you can see that the 6AU6 does work. I mean, they're sort of similar pinouts and functionality. I mean, certainly the filament and the plate are the same. Huh, the image is kind of inverted now, huh? Horizontal holds out of whack a bit. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as happy with this tube as the 6AG5. But hey, at least we have sound and picture at the same time, sort of. Actually, it's really good sound. Or at least it was, now it's a horrible buzz. If I turn the sound up, that buzz gets really annoying.
You're too sharp.
Oh, that's better. Okay, yeah, we do have the good sound. It's a matter of adjusting everything.
All right, kid, back over here. Townsend, Skidmore, drop your guns.
Now with the 6AG5. I haven't checked all the resistors. Resistors I have checked are often upwards of 30% high. That shouldn't be enough to greatly affect the set's performance. Alright, it's clearly better with a 6AG5. 6AU6, the picture was kind of inverted.
All of you. And you fellas don't have to worry about
And we have good sound and picture at the same time.
You'd better find a way to thank Henry Neighbors. I'll put him on a horse and get him to a doctor.
Alright, that is all very encouraging. Now the problem I have with this set is I have no reference point. These are very uncommon sets. I don't know how well it should work. I suppose the teletones are a little bit more common. It definitely should not be wavering that much, though. You can really see it now with the text, where it's kind of like, almost makes you feel like you're a little seasick or woozy as it's kind of undulating. Doesn't really seem to be present in the horizontal so much, though. In which case it would kind of be shimmying left to right. It's just in the vertical. Well, I can go over the vertical circuit. First up, though, I guess I'll tackle the high voltage box. Also, there's a shield missing on one of the tubes. I don't know that it would really help this much in this case, but there should be, I'm pretty sure there should be a shield over that too. It's tube. It's certainly got a thing for a shield on the base, and typically you would shield that. That is the, I think that's the R, or is that the local oscillator? That's a local oscillator too. Typically you'd have a shield over that. Sometimes they're pretty heavy lead shields to reduce microphonics. Alright, cool. It's tough after working on that Motorola 9T1 that works so well. And I kind of expect everything to work as well, but yeah, I know it's not going to be the case. And check this out. See that? There's an air bubble in the glass. That's actually really common on these early sets, both electrostatic CRTs and magnetic CRTs. I'd say maybe 1 in 5 or so has a bubble in the glass somewhere. Not right in the middle. I mean, they probably had some quality control, but seeing one near the edge and in the visible area is not at all uncommon. And yeah, it is slightly noticeable when you're watching the set once you know it's there.